Good morning, everybody. It is April 5th, 2016, and surprise, surprise, I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the Panama Papers. So, if you're someone who follows the news in any capacity, whether it's the alternate media or mainstream media, you've probably heard about this story. And I guess I want to stay kind of fairly quick about this because I've already seen a couple people in the alt media cover some of the angles that I wanted to discuss. Um, with regards to this story, as soon as this story broke, I knew it was something that I wanted to discuss, and I started making some notes for a video. And then I saw yesterday James Corbett put up a quick video on his YouTube channel, and pretty much I would say like 8 out of the 10 bullet points that I wanted to hit, he hit in his video. So I figured I would just kind of do this for my audience and kind of try to keep it fairly quick. So with the Panama Papers, you essentially have a huge, huge, huge trove of documents which were leaked, showing a bunch of officials, whether it was politicians, banking officials, people affiliated with politicians, using essentially offshore tax havens to shelter their money from taxation in their home countries. And they were using a firm called Mossack Fonseca to do so. And as of right now, we don't have a lot of detail as to how the leaks necessarily happened or what the process was leading up to that. But we do have a little bit of detail in regards to what was in the leaked documents. So one of the first things that I was thinking, when this story broke is, what politician, what large connected businessman, what, big head of an organization, a global organization, isn't dirty in some capacity? Which one of them doesn't, launder money or have secret holdings of some sort or real estate ventures that people aren't supposed to know about? However, as I scroll through this list, I happen to notice that a lot of these people are not Westerners, are not Americans, and in fact, I see a lot of mention of Putin, I see a lot of mention of Assad, I see a lot of mention of people involved in countries that the West is now, in conflict with. And that started to make me think, we're talking about crimes that pretty much everybody knows that, these people commit. I mean, you want to talk about money laundering, this list doesn't even talk about, the Clintons, the Bushes, etc. So it kind of started to pique my interest because at first I was thinking, hey, this might be kind of cool. It's a leak, and I'm always suspicious, especially after all the Edward Snowden, psyop going on. I'm always suspicious of leaks because I question what is the motive of them, in reality. And when I noticed that a lot of these people that were targeted were sort of enemies of the West, or at least just not affiliated with the West, even though I know the West is committing these crimes to an even worse degree, I started to become a bit suspicious. And from there, I decided what I needed to do was just wait. And I essentially just waited for the articles to start popping up about this story. And in the usual Western, mouthpieces, you can see that the coverage is essentially skewed right from the beginning. You just see over and over and over again, guys. I mean, I could show you a million articles, but everybody is talking about Putin and how he was involved, and there's so little mention. I mean, you see Britain here because David Cameron's father was actually implicated in this list, although not even 5% as much attention has been paid to that. So, I kind of wanted to point out, where the focus is. And if you read through a lot of these articles in places like Reuters, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, etc., it doesn't really matter. NBC, just mainstream media, constantly, 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 the number one person mentioned is definitely Putin. So let's look into that a little bit more. Now, I know some people obviously are going to say, on the one hand, if you're looking at something like Reuters, you're getting Western propaganda, and if you're looking at RT, you might be getting, more of like a Russian propaganda. But I felt that this op-ed article in RT kind of pointed out some of the things that I found in the media in a rather concise fashion. So you'll see, The Guardian was mentioning about this, Putin having a network of secret offshore deals and vast loans worth $2 billion, etc. Um, Obviously, we know that politicians use, frontmen, so to speak, to hide their wealth. So if Putin has some kind of offshore tax haven, it's not going to have Vladimir Putin's name right on the account. You know what I mean? Obviously, I realize that. So when they talk about Sergei Raldugin, the cello player who was friends with Putin, having a front company or something like that, of course, I realize that, Putin could be saying, hey, put this in your name and I'll really have control. And, he's a childhood friend of Putin's, so maybe Putin gave him a favor in exchange for hiding some of his wealth. I mean, yeah, I come to the same conclusions as I'm sure a lot of you guys have. But like I said, this article mentions again how the David Cameron connection was really put down in comparison to the focus on Vladimir Putin, especially considering that Putin's ties are so much more loose than those of Cameron's. I mean, Cameron's own father has tons of money stashed. I mean, it's his father, whereas Putin just kind of has, friends and people like that. And obviously, considering the direct implications involved in this leak of other heads of state, the focus on Putin is pretty inaccurate considering just how, I guess I would say flimsy the evidence against him is compared to other people in the leaks. It's just clear that everybody wants to rush to report on his name and his connections because of who he is to the Western political scene, because he's seen as a threat and an enemy to the powers that be. And it's almost as if this story broke and everybody was just given orders, hey, see if Putin's involved. Hey, see if you can link Putin, however, in however a little ways you possibly can. It doesn't even matter. I mean, these articles are just insane. And anybody who saw, um, I think it was this video mentioned right here. Corbett put it in his video, but the Guardian paper just video with the scary music in the background and everything. I mean, stuff like that is just ridiculous. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. You can just tell it's propaganda, not news, and they've become one and the same. So I just wanted to point out, it's like they literally just gave out orders, find something to do with Putin. We need to report on him. A lot of focus was put on the Prime Minister of Iceland. A lot of you probably saw how he walked out of the interview that he was having when this was brought up kind of out of nowhere. Seemed like he had been kind of tricked into that interview. And, I see things like this. And at first, again, if you look at it on the surface, you read the story and you think, hey, this is great. All these people, especially in America on the left, love, Iceland and these sort of Nordic countries that have these, supposedly socialist havens. And here we can see their leaders are swindling the people just as badly as the capitalists. But in reality, when I look at this, same thing that Corbett pointed out, actually. I mean, they're talking about how they're filing a claim for $4.2 million on some investments and how there's some real estate holdings in other countries that look suspicious and as though they've been trying to hide them. But I say to myself again, let's look at the usual power players. Let's look at the Bushes. Let's look at the Clintons. All these people. I mean, $4 million. Is this really, does $4 million make national headlines? I'm pretty sure Bill Clinton made $4 million while I was saying the last sentence I just said. I mean, it's just such a negligible amount of money. Now, am I saying that this doesn't matter or that these people should be allowed to just do whatever they want or that we should let them get away with it? No. I think any theft is worth, prosecuting these people for. But I'm just trying to point out to you guys, if you look at the actual facts, the way that this story is framed is so clearly in a way that is supposed to make certain people like Putin, like Assad, look bad and have them be portrayed in a negative light. And on the other hand, there's people that are doing the same thing and it's being completely ignored. And there's people that are doing things that are a million times worse, both financially and just in terms of the crime. And it's being completely ignored. So I just want to point out, for something that has grabbed the headlines of pretty much every publication around the entire planet, a lot of the stuff they're focusing on is either inconsequential, like $4 million, claims, or just completely baseless, such as the claims against Putin. Now, like I said, there might actually be something to that, but you're really going to come out and pretend like Putin is, in some way 100% guilty when we know that other people are doing this and they are absolutely committing these crimes. And, it just, again, you look at everything going on with say Hillary Clinton, and then it's like, oh, Vladimir Putin's childhood friend might have set up a bank account for him. I mean, it just goes to show that it's the pot calling the kettle black. And I see paragraphs like this underneath the photo. Many international officials who were listed in papers revealing the offshore accounts of wealthy individuals, including President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia, defended themselves on Monday. Now, if you read that paragraph from Reuters and the Associated Press, you're going to see, obviously wording that makes it sound like Putin was directly involved, directly implicated, that he's rushing to defend himself, when in reality, you go later on in the article, and what are they saying? Putin is not actually, in the paperwork, he's tied to it, but again, more legitimate connections with Cameron, but nobody wants to talk about that. And, later on when they talk about the fact that Putin wasn't actually named, by the time you see a little headline like this or a little caption like this, the average American thinks, oh, look at that, Putin, he's stealing again. Look at that guy, that crazy Russian. We've got to trust our government. So one of the things that was pointed out in the RT article is a lot of people who are kind of critical in the political scene of this leak are talking about how it's being portrayed in the media, but they're also talking about the ICIJ, and basically, if I go to the top here, you can just go to this page. I think Corbett mentioned this too about the ICIJ, and I saw it mentioned by a couple of Russian politicians that they felt that this group was, Western backed, and obviously when I look at the framework of the reporting, I can see that. And just look at all the donors. I mean, they're Western organizations, American organizations, the Ford Foundation, etc. So obviously, consider the source, guys. We have a group that has exposed this leak, which receives apparently all of its money from Western sources, American sources, who are already linked to high finance and the highest realms of government. So can we really trust them as a source, especially considering that other leaks have been used to strategically damage enemies of the West in the past? I don't know. It just seems too perfect. Again, even the ICIJ itself publishing its own, analysis of the leaks focuses so much on this childhood connection of Putin and, how he was potentially involved. And of course, this is propaganda at its finest. They show a picture of Putin's palace, that let's not care about the White House. Let's not care about how much money we spend so Obama can go golfing in Hawaii. Let's not show photos of the luxury that he lives in. Let's show Putin's palace, and we'll call it a palace so that people feel like he's, just so rich and powerful and just has all this money and the Russian people are suffering. And not that I'm saying that that kind of stuff isn't true, but this is Western propaganda. They put photos like this in here to associate your mind with the idea of Putin just having these vast troves of wealth. And in reality, so does Hillary Clinton, so does Bill Clinton, so do the Bushes, so does everybody else in American politics and Western politics and everybody in NATO. But this is the image you're going to be seen, that you're going to be shown. Not David Cameron going on vacation with his father's dirty money, not the Bushes hanging out at Martha's Vineyard. You see Putin's palace because that's the image they want you to have. Still going down here talking about, nowhere in the Mossack Fonseca files is the name of the Russian president. A former KGB spy master actually mentioned, again, trying to say, well, hey, he's not actually mentioned, but he's a KGB spy master, so let's be afraid. Let's assume that he could have manipulated the situation. So, again, New York Times, including President Vladimir Putin, actually not including Russian President Vladimir Putin, guys. So let me know what you think about this morning's Western propaganda, everybody, and we will talk again soon.